Time you live in?
Situate.
And you're married to Chris Clancy?
Yes.
And both you and Chris are mother and father of Pat Clancy?
Correct.
And you are obviously with and know Lindsay?
Yes.
Lindsay, and of course your grandchildren.
At least a couple times a month we would see them.
At some point, oh, by the way, what do you do for work?
RN.
I'm sorry, an RN?
An RN.
And what type of, any focus?
I worked in the labor and delivery room for about 38 years.
As a mother of 38, did you have any observation to observe Lindsay with her kids?
Yes.
Can you tell the jurors about how you saw her acting with her children as a mother?
She was very nurturing, very loving. She was a wonderful mother. Wonderful.
Before we get into this testimony, pay close attention to what the attorney is building here, because this is not simply a family member taking the stand and describing what she remembers. The questioning is carefully establishing Susan Clancy's relationship to Lindsay, her professional background, her observations of Lindsay as a mother, and, most importantly, what Lindsay reportedly told her when she began struggling. Susan identifies herself as an RN with roughly 38 years of experience in labor and delivery, and the attorney specifically explores her familiarity with postpartum mental health issues. That matters because the testimony is setting up the context in which Susan recognized that something had changed. Then the timeline becomes increasingly important. Lindsay is described as loving and nurturing with her children, but several months after Ken was born, Susan says she noticed a change. By November 2022, Lindsay was reportedly describing insomnia, loss of appetite, anxiety, and sadness, and according to Susan, she wasn't simply refusing help. She was actively asking for support. And that distinction becomes one of the major themes of this testimony. Was Lindsay avoiding treatment, or was she desperately trying to get it? Susan's answer is emphatic. She says Lindsay was begging for help. As you listen, watch how the attorney moves from family history, to Susan's professional experience, to Lindsay's symptoms, to efforts to connect her with medical care, and finally to the text messages that may provide a contemporaneous record. What do you think those messages will show? And how much weight should a jury give testimony from someone who was both a close family member and a medical professional? Keep watching, because the next portion starts connecting those dots.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Judge. Keep your voice up so Officer is not here for you as well. Thank you. And just tell us your name and spell it, please.
Susan Clancy, SUSAN CLANCY.
And what time do you live in?
Situate.
And you're married to Chris Clancy?
Yes.
And both you and Chris are mother and father of Pat Clancy?
Correct.
And you are obviously with and know Lindsay?
Yes.
Tell us what your relationship was with Lindsay, how you knew her, and things like that.
Yeah, Lindsay married my son Patrick, and we had a very good relationship.
And did you have occasion to go to their home
Yes.
in Weymouth?
Yes, I did.
And then in Duxbury as well?
Correct.
And obviously, you and your husband were the grandparents of the 3 little kids?
Yes.
And how was your relationship with the babies?
Beautiful.
And tell us how frequently, to your memory, you were able to visit with your son, Lindsay, and of course your grandchildren.
At least a couple times a month we would see them.
At some point, oh, by the way, what do you do for work?
RN.
I'm sorry, an RN?
An RN.
And what type of any focus?
I worked in the labor and delivery room for about 38 years.
38 years in labor and delivery?
Correct.
Helping women that were having babies. And
correct.
Obviously, you kept up with the studies and continuing education and things?
Yes, I did.
To that extent, in your capacity as an RN with 38, well, back then it would have been 35 years of experience, I think.
Yes.
Fair to say that you, as I said, you would keep up with all of recent developments in postpartum psychosis, postpartum depression, all of that.
Somewhat, but I mainly just was in the delivery room itself.
So were you aware of the various physicians that were in the forefront, if you will, of postpartum studies as it relates to medicine?
Yes.
Would one of the people that you were interested in be a person by the name of Dr. Meg Spinelli?
Yes.
And can you tell us who Meg Spinelli is?
I don't really know Meg Spinelli well. We've spoken a couple of times. I believe she specializes in postpartum mental health.
And have you met with her before?
Not in person.
Okay. Did you at some point ask Dr. Spinelli to help out at your hospital, and I guess they call it a rounds lecture?
I asked her to bring on her experience and education in that area and share it with my colleagues.
Did she do that?
She did.
And as time went by, dealing with your job, your family, your son, daughter-in-law, grandchildren, did you notice in 2022, after Callan was born, any change in the personality, if you will, of Lindsay?
Several months after that, I did.
Would that be sometime in the fall?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, being as close as you were with the family, well, let me back up. As a mother-in-law, did you have any observation to observe Lindsay with her kids?
Yes.
Can you tell the jurors about how you saw her acting with her children as a mother?
She was very nurturing, very loving. She was a wonderful mother. Wonderful.
Did you ever see her treat her middle son, Dawson, bad because you didn't like him?
No.
Did she love Dawson, in your opinion?
She loved her children, all of them, very, very much.
And
Now the testimony takes a significant turn. Up to this point, the attorney has been establishing Susan's connection to Lindsay and describing Lindsay as a loving, nurturing mother. That foundation matters because the next question is not simply, was she having a difficult time? It is whether there was a noticeable change from the person Susan knew before. Susan places that change several months after Ken was born and then gives the jury a specific point in time, November 2022. According to her testimony, Lindsay reached out and said she felt unwell, describing insomnia, loss of appetite, anxiety, and sadness. Those are Susan's observations of what Lindsay reported, not a diagnosis being made in this courtroom, and that distinction is important when evaluating testimony. But emotionally, the testimony is already powerful. This isn't being presented as someone suddenly becoming indifferent to her children. Susan's description is almost the opposite, a mother previously characterized as deeply loving who was now struggling and reaching out. And here's the question for the jury, and for everyone watching. When someone's behavior changes dramatically, how should we interpret that change when the person is also telling people that something is wrong? The answer may depend heavily on what happened next.
And during that period of time, let's say October, November of 2022, what did you observe about Lindsay?
She reached out to me in November and told me that she felt unwell.
Did she describe any symptoms for you?
She did.
Tell the jurors what she said.
She felt, mostly she had insomnia. She was losing her appetite. She was very anxious and sad.
Did she tell you that she was seeing doctors?
Yes.
And at some point, did you recommend, did she come to you and ask you for help regarding seeing a doctor?
Yes, she asked for my support.
And did you obviously gave it to her?
Yes.
And what did you do to make any recommendations for her?
I reached out to my colleagues who were running a clinic for women that were struggling postpartum.
Would that be the South Shore?
Yes, correct.
And at some point, as a result of your intervention, was a nurse practitioner, Julie Hall, agreeing to step in and help out?
Yes,
Did Lindsay see Julie?
I believe she did.
And you really pretty much were out of the mix at that point. You basically made the connection, knew that she was on there, right?
Correct.
Did you find that Lindsay was interested at all times in trying to get better and see doctors?
Very much so.
Did you find at all, do you have an opinion with your observations of Lindsay as to whether or not she was offered help and would just spurn it and not see doctors and not have
She was
treatment?
begging for help.
And during that period of time, you were there for her by text and by telephone and in person.
Correct.
Now,
This is
during
arguably
that-
one of the most consequential moments in the testimony so far. The attorney directly asks whether Lindsay was someone who rejected medical help or refused treatment. Susan doesn't hedge in her response. She says Lindsay was begging for help, and she describes being there for her through texts, telephone calls, and in-person contact. Notice the structure of the testimony. Susan says Lindsay reported symptoms, told her she was seeing doctors, asked Susan for support, and then Susan used her professional connections to help connect Lindsay with a postpartum clinic. The testimony also identifies nurse practitioner Julie Hall as someone who agreed to step in. That doesn't automatically establish every medical or legal issue in the case. A witness's opinion is still testimony for the jury to evaluate, and the jury ultimately decides what weight to give it. But it does create a very clear factual narrative from Susan's perspective. Lindsay was experiencing serious difficulties and, according to Susan, was actively seeking assistance. Then comes another important transition: the holiday period, the hospitalization around New Year's, and eventually the text message evidence. If you're watching this as a juror, which would carry more weight for you, a family member's recollection of events, or contemporaneous messages written during the period in question? That question is about to become especially important.
Now, during that time that you were, let's say November and into December, the holiday season, do you recall the holidays for 2022?
Yes.
Can you tell us, was that a fun time for the Clancys?
Lindsay was struggling. We were all very concerned.
You knew in January, New Year's, actually, that she ended up going
Yes.
to the McLean Hospital.
Yes.
You knew that she'd eventually get out of the McLean Hospital.
Yes.
Fair to say that you and Lindsay, as I said, communicated a lot by text messaging, right?
Yes, correct.
So I'm going to approach you with extraction report. This is a report that is done by the DA's office of the state police, Mr. Whiffen, on what's called Celebrate, where they can go into, did they examine your phone?
No.
They examined Lindsay's phone and obtained texts. Have you seen the texts?
I think so.
Okay. I'm going to approach you with the extraction report. Okay. And if you can just take a look and see if your telephone number is on there, just for foundation purposes. Or if you it is, okay. And just quickly flip through and see if you recognize those texts. You don't have to look at all of them, that's for sure. They appear to be texts between you and Lindsay? Mm-hmm. Okay. Your Honor, I'm not going to go through each and every text. What I'm going to suggest is I would offer this, and then the jurors would be able to look at what they wish.
Any objection?
Your Honor, Commonwealth makes the same objection previously made. All
right. Over the Commonwealth's objection, that may be admitted.
Thank you.
279.
Thank you very much.
And that brings this portion of the testimony to a very important evidentiary moment. Susan has testified about her relationship with Lindsay, her decades of experience as an RN in labor and delivery, the changes she says she observed after Ken was born, Lindsay's reported symptoms, her efforts to obtain medical assistance, the connection to a postpartum clinic and nurse practitioner Julie Hall, and the family's concern as Lindsay struggled through the holiday season and into the new year. The testimony then moves from recollection to documentary evidence. Text messages between Susan and Lindsay obtained through a state police extraction report. The attorney offered the material rather than reading every message aloud, and after an objection, the judge ruled that the evidence could be admitted. That ruling is specifically what we can establish from this excerpt. This transcript does not provide the ultimate verdict or final disposition of the overall case, so it would be inaccurate to claim one here. What makes this section significant is the contrast between retrospective testimony and messages that may provide a contemporaneous window into what Lindsay was communicating at the time. The jury is ultimately responsible for weighing that evidence alongside everything else presented in the case. So what do you think? Does Susan Clancy's testimony change how you view Lindsay's situation, and how much weight should those text messages carry? If you found this case as shocking as we did, make sure to hit that like button. Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping courtroom breakdowns.